Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. We're broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Join me, as always, is Mr. Mega Jesse. What are we going to be doing today, Jesse?
Oh, yeah, we got a lot to get into because we're getting to interview Royce White, the U.S. Senate candidate going against shaky Amy Klobuchar, who is a globalist, who, obviously is more concerned about Ukraine, who is more concerned with the rest of the world than she is about our own country and her own constituents. I'm seeing we got Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Tucker 91, Cindy Lou, and Rodeo 55 in the comments. Appreciate that, guys. Feel free to continue to comment as the show goes on. Drop a Rumble rant if you want to make sure that your comment is read.
Running the dials, as always, Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing, Dawson?
I'm doing good. I've got all my liberal talking points ready, and I'm raring to go.
I'm going to silence your speech today. No way. The audience didn't want to hear it. All right, so Royce is going to join us in a couple minutes here, and so I want to get into the story. This is just too interesting. If you want to be part of our conversation today, you can join us on Rumble, and we'll be reading some of your comments, but if you want to for sure interrupt us anytime or certainly ask a question to Royce White, to make sure we see it, you hit that Rumble rant, and we will break to your comment. Whether it's a question or just an opinion, whatever it wants to be. It's the Wild West of the internet, those Rumble rants. We're brought to you today by Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, give my good friend Warren Wessel a call at 612-419-7453. You can see at the bottom of the screen. Warren's a good friend of mine, great patriot, and a damn good realtor. Give him a call if you're buying or selling a home. Now, if you're buying a home, give the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company a chance at financing that home. Tim, one of the founders of the company, just survived a hurricane. So he's a multiple hurricane and multiple COVID survivor. Tim is he's tough. They can't take him down, can they? It's like Trump. They can't take him down. So anyhow, the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company, they believe the things that you and I believe in. Give them a chance of financing your home. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. We're also brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota. That's another company run by a real patriot. Do you think there's someone that's not run by a patriot that's sponsoring this show?
No way.
Right? It just seems like it goes with it. Yeah. Because they support the project we're doing here. New media, it's important. It's the evening. It's the leveling or the evening out of the political landscape because the corporate media is so bad. But luckily I got my Star Tribune voters guide here, so this is how we need to think, Let the Star Tribune tell you how to think about the election coming up. Before we get into it, we just got to do this story. This is just so funny. Dawson, we're going to, as we wait for Royce to get on set, pull up, I guess I didn't label it, D2. Pull up the D2. This is a breaking story on Alpha News. Third-party spoiler candidate in 2nd District race endorses Tayreb, suspends campaign. Thomas Bowman says he feels like a quote-unquote pawn after realizing a national group that get on the...
That helped him get on the ballot.
Helped him, okay, misspelling, or grammatical thing. Helped him get on the ballot, was recruiting him to be a spoiler for DFLer Angie Craig. Do I have an outdated version here? What does it say on the screen?
It might be. Mine is.
Oh, yeah, they corrected it. Let me just refresh my page. Yep, looks like they caught their error. That helped him get on the ballot. I can read. Trust me. The one that I was looking at was old, okay? All right, so it says a Brooklyn Park man. And you remember this guy. He was on our show.
Yeah.
He was recruited. We dug into it. We showed him, firsthand. I mean, the guy, I don't know, it didn't seem to... Shut up, Whiskey Tango Fox. I can read. It was on the old version. Is there a Wayback Machine that I can prove my innocence
From
here?
5 minutes ago? Probably not.
A Brooklyn Park man who last month told Alpha News that he was recruited by a national group to run his constitutional conservative Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District has announced he has suspended his campaign and will endorse Republican Joe Tayrab over DFL incumbent Angie Craig. Thomas William Bowman, 71, filed his affidavit of candidacy with the Miss. I don't need to read this. You know the story. We talked about the story already. In an email exchange with Alpha News in September, Bowman confirmed that he was recruited via social media to run for the CD2 seat by a mostly unknown organization, Patriots Run Project. Bowman indicated that those who recruited him also helped him obtain the petition signatures required by the state to get his name on the ballot. This was a show. What did we do this 2-3 weeks ago? It was an interesting thing. We had him in studio. Guy pales in comparison to our guest today, by the way. I got to admit, I thought the interview was going to be a lot better, and the guy just, I don't know. It was so obvious he was duped. It's so obvious he was a pawn. So anyhow, he's apparently seen the light. I'm sure Tom Emmer helped him see the light, or all Tom Emmer's guys. In a public statement on Thursday, Bowman said after coming to a full understanding of the details surrounding the Patriots Front project, he believes he was used as a quote-unquote pawn by those trying to aid Craig's re-election chances.
Which, of course, he was being used as a pawn, and you even said when we had interviewed the guy, you said all your donors are Democrat. All you got to do is look them up in the FEC records, and at least he realized that he got played. But he was under the illusion that he was going to win as a third party and all that. So,
but the funny thing is they weren't even like donors of his.
Right?
They literally just gave him an in kind, like they spit the money themselves. I asked him point blank on this set, well, what was the money spent on? Oh, I don't know. How do you know these guys? He's never even talked to the guys before. But $19,800 is on their campaign books. Yeah. Quote, this is a quote from him. Joe Tayrab is the political outsider that we really need in Congress, and I'm proud to endorse him for Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District, Bowman said. Well, he is an outsider of CD2, right? Yeah. I see now that I was tricked into running by Democrats looking to protect Angie Craig, and I don't want to be a pawn in their game. I am unhappy about this clear election interference. I was defrauded, and contributors to Angie Craig were behind it. I call on Angie Craig to demand answers from those contributors to return their money. Somebody's getting a senior advising position with Trump Minnesota's campain. Boy, this guy, like literally, does anyone believe, we interviewed Thomas Bowman, does anyone believe he wrote that press release? And he had no campaign staff. Oh, right. God. Politics is hilarious. I can't believe it's free in this state. Honest to God, it's going to make literally no difference. The people that were going to vote for Thomas Bowman and CD2 are still going to vote for him.
Yeah, he's still going to get his 2%. And
yes, he's still going to be the spoiler. He can't be off. He's not off the ballot, by the way. Congratulations, lefties. You pulled a trick on it. By the way, he probably still was, Andrew Craig was probably still going to win CD2, even without that trick.
Most likely.
Did you see the debate? The debate she actually went after him. She goes, he's still not endorsed by the Republicans in Congressional District 2. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right. Well, Royce White, how you doing? Good to see you again, man.
Good to be here. I appreciate it. Again,
I love everything about what's going on. You are living rent-free in a lot of people's heads in politics.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
How does it feel?
It feels fantastic. It's the only reason to get involved these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you and I, the first time I interviewed you, 3 months ago, way more than that. I didn't know where we would end up. I've heard things about you, and I'm good and bad, and it's like, I don't know where this thing's gonna go. Let's just have a fucking conversation. What's wrong with that? Let's have a conversation. Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, damn, I like the way this guy thinks. He's saying a lot of the right things. He's kind, nice, very articulate. Every time I've had you in here, it gets more and more interesting. Yeah. Someday maybe we can really have a long-form conversation about how much in control of the world Britain is. That one I push back on. Yeah. But a lot of things you say are counterculture to what we're spoon-fed by the mainstream media and Hollywood and all the elitist. Yeah. And so from what I've seen from you, it seems like in your core, you're against these global elites.
For sure.
And it seems like your opponent is like literally their
entrenched.
She's the poster child.
She's the poster child, yeah. No, she is. Amy Klobuchar's the most dangerous political prototype in America. She's the smile and wave, Minnesota nice, laissez-faire, go to the cookie bake and pretend like she's doing retail politics, but really it's all a smoke show for, it's all a smoke screen for the globalist agenda. It's to create a complacency in the people about their agenda. And the agenda's never been more obvious, and the politicians have never been more superficial in their public presentation.
What do you mean by that? Like, what's exposing that to you?
Well, I think it's getting exposed from top to bottom. Well, really, the thing that I always go back to World War II, not to be like belittle the audience or try and do some benign, obscure history lesson, but we really do live under a post-World War II doctrine globally.
Right.
The entire global order
Well, we weren't a superpower before World War II. We emerged as a superpower.
Right. Well, yes. I wouldn't say we emerged as a superpower. I would say the globalists emerged as a superpower.
Well, hijacking the great works of us, we the people, right?
Well,
because they
yes
need
and no.
us, right?
Yes and no. Let's talk about it, okay?
Yeah.
Post-World War II democratic liberal order, otherwise known as the International Rules-Based Order or the Liberal Order. After World War II, reconstruction of the entire global economy, Bretton Woods Conference, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, United Nations, so on and so forth. United States dollar becomes the reserve currency for the entire global economy. A lot of countries get grafted onto that world order. And what it really became was a sort of a Ponzi scheme for us to use the United States dollar as a military tool. We said we wouldn't. We promised all these nations that the dollar would remain neutral as a sort of adjudicator for freedom and democracy all around the world as the new aspiration of this post-World War II democratic liberal order. We lied. At every turn since World War II, we have tried to use the dollar and that economic hegemony to intimidate and bully other countries to do what we want them to do, whether it be right or wrong. And now what's happened is it's run its course because the whole scam was based on political promises, both here in our country and also internationally, that weren't kept. You know, not just around the neutrality of the dollar, but I mean around the speed of innovation and technology. You know, let's say the efficiency or the efficacy of liberalism as a political philosophy, and whether or not we really believe in democracy. And that's what's really coming to the center now is, you know, we talk about democracy and it sounds good on paper, but really what we're doing is applying a soft authoritarian and totalitarian statism where and when we can. It has nothing really to do with democracy at all.
You know, I had this epiphany within the last couple of years. Certainly it became very evident to me in just the past year when Trump faced the civil case in New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember in the 90s, I was too young in the 80s, but certainly it started in the 80s. China was starting to emerge as a somewhat market-based economy, and I remember being an advocate.
That was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it started, right. I think, well, probably even
started 70s. Back in the 70s
Nixon
when Nixon
opened it, yeah.
Right.
So, but I was obviously advocating for this 90s, 2000s, you know, that China is emerging as this market-based economy.
Right.
And then I think it's very apparent to us that if you do business with China, you really, in the end, the state is behind it. If somebody acts out, one of these private business billionaires in China, really, they can go and disappear for a month, right?
Very easy.
So in other words, they allow the markets to exist because communism doesn't work in the sense that it takes away the market conditions. It sets prices. That doesn't work. If you don't believe me, just look at the Soviet Union, look at North Korea today.
Right.
China enters into this market-based economy, but anytime they still pull the reins back and go, we're in control.
Right.
And then you see what happens in New York and you go, wait a second, Donald Trump lives in this market-based economy, builds this beautiful company.
The great lie.
And at any time, boop, nope, you can't do business in this state anymore, and we're going to take $500 million of your assets
overnight.
And I see someone writing tariffs and tax rates and stuff like that. Another good case. And it's just like, you know what? Actually, aren't we the same model?
Yes, we are.
We just aren't national because at least we have some jurisdictions here. But aren't we that same damn model?
Amen, sir. And then I came under scrutiny this past week in national media because I said that the bad guys won World War II. And I said later on in that post back in 2022, I said that in the Allied forces, you can see the soft connection between liberalism and communism. And it just so happens to be the case that historically speaking, after the Enlightenment, there were three ideologies that rose up to prominence, and they were liberalism, communism, and neoclassicism. And so the intellectual roots of the post-Enlightenment Renaissance scientific method-based society, Westphalian Western society, has liberalism and communism, conjoined at the hip. And when you get to a certain height of economic and political power, there is a very blurry line between liberalism and communism. And that's what I was saying, that we called it the post-World War II democratic liberal order, but really what it was the globalist totalitarian agenda.
Right.
Right? And they just said it was liberalism.
It's because there's no ism to what they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
The elites, they just want power and money, right? So there's there's no ism there.
Yeah,
they
but
use the isms.
I think communism in the final analysis always tilts towards totalitarianism and state authority.
Correct. Yeah, but the guys at the top aren't living the ism. They're the ones that are wined and dined and living the high life, right? Exactly. So there's no ism behind what they're doing.
True.
It's very obvious. I mean, just understand human beings. Just understand history. What's going to happen is the top are going to benefit. I mean, Kim Jong-un doesn't starve, but his people do, right? So there's no ism with the global elites. We have this. I mean, geez, Kamala Harris said in a recent interview. Boy, that sounds really weird saying that. A recent interview, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, because she doesn't do anything.
We have to get used to this. She's actually doing interviews. Well, really, one CBS News 60 Minutes, and didn't go well for her. By the way, have you seen the editing of that Trump and
I know it's crazy. They slice it up, so that her answers actually sound competent.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
still as
that's
bad.
Not what she said. Yeah, it's crazy. It shows that the media is working way overtime for Kamala because the poll numbers must not be looking good at all for her. Because
internal poll, she's down 3 points in Wisconsin. That's a death nail. This thing is if they don't cheat, it's over. She's not winning the electoral. It's over. She's down 3 points in Wisconsin from her internal poll, which means she's probably down 5 or 6 in Wisconsin, which means Michigan and Pennsylvania are already gone. Wisconsin's the best chance she had to win a swing state,
right?
Demographically speaking,
or Michigan.
Michigan too. If she doesn't win Michigan, she is totally.
But I
RCP average has her down. She was
sitting better in Wisconsin in general. She was probably sitting better in Wisconsin than Michigan or Pennsylvania.
I don't think so. Previously, I thought Michigan was her stronger state.
Yeah, it'd be close.
Are you following this? RCP average now has Trump up in Michigan. Because what you're alluding to is one poll. It's actually a Democrat poll, which is really interesting.
Yes.
But the RCP average, Real Clear Politics average, which isn't just one poll, it's a combination of that has got Trump now plus 0.3 in Michigan.
Yep.
I mean, it's all in the margin of error, but I mean, it's a no doubt, it's a surge, right? Which is just crazy. But see, they should have done a better job keeping her off of the microphone.
No,
but that's the thing.
They couldn't do it.
It's like it's so obvious.
She's so dumb. They couldn't.
You can only do it for
hide
so long, right? You can only do it for so long. But then people start to say, "I don't know anything about her," and that's
they should have replaced her with Pete.
I don't know. Yeah,
Pete Buttigieg would have been better for him.
Anyone would have been better.
Michelle Obama, in my opinion, would have been the better one.
Yeah, she didn't want to do that.
I'm guessing she didn't want to do it at this point because I'm sure.
No, because that's their final chip to play.
Yeah,
that's the last chip they have. So,
but I think they're saving
that one.
They should have, because we had predicted that Kamala would have this rise and it would be short lived, and so it's like, okay, so we understand they had a strategy not to do interviews. Like, we're not saying something that's disagreeable, right? Like everyone knows their strategy was not do interviews,
right?
And all of a sudden now they're doing interviews.
I actually have a theory about that. I have a theory about why she wasn't doing interviews.
Go ahead. What's the theory?
They take time to schedule.
She can get on anything she wants.
It's a theory. It doesn't matter if it's a bad theory.
For sure.
No, I mean, just literally, it's insane. Like, so why would she start doing interviews? Because she's down, and then it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you say now they find out
she's doing
how
terrible
bad she
in these interviews, right? She's supposed to be going in these interviews, telling people where she stands on issues, and supposed to be giving some clarity. And people are coming out even more unclear. They still have no idea what she thinks, even when she answers.
Yeah,
she's saying whatever she thinks the crowd wants to hear wherever she's speaking at the time. I don't think she stands for anything. I think that, kind of like you're saying about these elites and everything, it's all about power for her. She doesn't have some kind of, philosophy that's driving her. It's all about, maintaining power, and she's willing to do or say anything for the most powerful job in the world.
Well, that's the real issue is the modern politician in general, across the aisle. They just don't have much intellectual depth and substance. So, she is serving an agenda. She's the amalgamation of the entire Democrat platform. That's what they say she's a meme of a meme of a meme, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. She's not a real candidate at all. And the problem is, in the past, they've at least had candidates like a Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or a Joe Biden, even in some respects, and certainly Barack Obama, who could at least articulate, synthesize the ideology or the agenda in, in a dishonest enough way to make it sound good.
Yep.
She can't even do that. I mean, they're really, and part of it is sometimes I think these people aren't stupid. Okay, the people who ran her, they're not stupid. I think you said something about counterculture. I was thinking about counterculture on the way over, and my first instinct is that the conservative movement just isn't cool enough, and that for 60 years counterculture has used black entertainment, hip hop. Back then it was rock and roll and blues and R&B and soul, and they used entertainment as a way to hijack counterculture. And so the counterculture that we see, where at the height of it is this Marxist image of Che Guevara, right? Is this counter establishment, but it's all theater. And the reason why they've been able to construct and maintain that theater is because they control counterculture. And Kamala's the same way. I mean, and so what I'm saying is it's very possible that they're running this thing is far from over. I mean, Donald Trump being elected on November 5th is an important roadblock to stop the bleeding, but it's by no means, it's the very beginning of this, the very beginning. And so if he's elected, they have plans for that too. They're not stupid.
Oh, right.
And they know that what they're really doing is they are running her out there as a litmus test to see just how stupid the American people are, because that will let them know how much lawfare they can really rain down on Donald Trump in the event that he becomes president. You understand?
Oh, yeah. And, I'm thinking, too, the Democrats, obviously, they tossed out Joe Biden. They realized they got almost no chance of winning this election. So maybe the reason they don't put in a Michelle Obama is because they're realizing this thing's not going to go well to us. Who do we want to throw under as the sacrificial lamb to lose to Trump? Because no matter what goes on, they'll try to impeach Trump day one.
Well, and there's two different silos working there in D.C. in the deep state. You probably have one silo that has the idea prepped for what to do when he wins, and then you have the other silo still trying to salvage how they can cheat to stop him from winning. So they're working both at the same time. People got to understand this is what they do for a living. This is all they do all day. Whatever you do, you go to your 9 to 5. Now you got to work 2 jobs to try and maintain the cost of living.
Hey, but unemployment's down.
One thing I was thinking about, I remember at the time when Joe Biden was choosing his VP, it was, basically down to Kamala, Amy Klobuchar, Stacey Abrams, and then Amy Klobuchar comes out, says, I think it's going to be a black woman. That's how I want it to be. Basically, that was her cover to be able to get out of the race because nobody wanted to have her, due to the Mayan Burrell, due to Derek Chauvin, all of her record as prosecutor and whatnot. She's obviously backing Kamala 100%. I was connecting that to something. Oh, man, I lost my thought. But
that she's empty puppet like Kamala. Because, by the way, I don't even hate Kamala at this point. It's just I know what she is. And I'm not necessarily voting against Kamala. I'm voting against the machine behind her. Because Elon had this really funny thing. He was on Tucker. Tucker had about almost 2 hours with Elon. They did it only on X. Yeah. And they have a cold start. It was great. A cold start before they officially started. And Elon talks about this joke. He's like, they're not trying to assassinate Kamala because they could just replace her with anyone else. It's like, yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's really nothing there. Amy Klobuchar's the same person. Let's pull up the A1 here, Dawson. Did you think of what you were trying to say there,
Not
Jesse?
yet.
You having a Klobuchar moment.
Yep.
There you go. That's right off your Twitter account. You can follow Royce at highway _30. What's
Boom. There it is.
Like...
I don't need to say anything else.
Kamala's campaign, or Tim Walz or someone. Yeah, Tim Walz was campaigning with John McCain's son today.
Of course.
Birds of a feather,
is this?
right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Ukraine. This is back.
And
what was this? I mean, McCain's alive, so this was like what 2018.
It had to have been. This was
2018.
Yeah.
The apparatchiks.
Who is this?
That's John McCain.
That's John McCain.
Oh, okay.
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. So these are rhinos, and then of course Amy Klobuchar. These are just globalists. These are politicians that, in many regards, are empty suits. They're not changing anything. They've been part of the foreign policy disaster. John McCain in particular, Lindsey Graham and John McCain in particular, advocating and helping and supporting, funding radical Muslims in Syria. Like just unbelievable. That's your record. That you did that, right?
Yes. It's not arguable.
It's not arguable. He's got photos
record,
with them there.
Yeah.
These freedom fighters, because we don't like the dictator in Syria anymore. It's like, oh my God, like, geez, they don't care what party.
Which that policy was anti-Russian too. The entire Syria Assad policy
Assad.
is
Right.
is
Because
anti-Russian.
Russia was trying to defeat ISIS. And you can't take out ISIS when you're also trying to take out Assad.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and the thing I was going to say to you guys is it's interesting. That picture, when you bring it back up, the interest, this right here, this picture, this stems all the way back to World War II. This is a remnant and relic of a foreign policy that Zbigniew Brzezinski and Kissinger created that said communism. You can go back and you can watch Zbigniew Brzezinski talking to William Buckley on Firing Line, and he says plainly the real threat of East versus West isn't communism as an ideology. It's a waning ideology. Even the Chinese, they would select for a more collaborative partnership with us in the West. They want capitalism. Communism isn't the problem. The only real threat of Russia is their military. And so we started a foreign policy that is completely based on Russia as a military power, not based on the ideology, which Zbigniew and those guys know because they're aware that 20 million Christians were killed under communist Russia. And that genocide we never talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the Holocaust didn't happen or it's not something that is worth remembering and all of that, but it's not insignificant that a Christian genocide of double the number is never mentioned in common political discussions.
Yeah, it was actually by numbers far worse. I'm going to get to these Rumble rants here before we move on.
We got failed candidate who says polling even in the suburbs. Way to go, Royce. So obviously he's looking at the polling and seeing that you're climbing up there.
That's a
giving
shocker.
Amy Klobuchar the toughest competition she's ever had. So I mean everyone's excited about that. We also got G Ballstad that says greetings from Gunner. Great show, gents. Royce, do you think that Trump will fully support war with Iran, or is this a Rocket Man hyperbole? When elected, will you support or vote for war with Iran?
Great question.
What's your thoughts on what's going on with Iran?
We're going here, huh? All right.
No, let's go there because this whole show's on foreign policy, I'm fine with it.
We'll go there.
That's the single biggest thing.
No war with Iran. Look, Can I go back to World War II
Let's
again to answer the question?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, it's your tweet.
I gotta ground people in the historical basis of these things. We said we were going to make these nations self-determining all around the world, the friends of ours.
Yeah.
If you want to make a nation self-determining, the first thing you would give them is a Second Amendment. That way they have a great home field advantage to defend themselves and individual security against tyrants of their own nation or foreign invaders. It's still one of the greatest home court advantages that we have in America.
100%.
None of the nations that we stood up after World War II have a prominent Second Amendment.
Right.
And I say that because Iran, and any of these other nations, it is very hard to make landfall in a country and occupy a country long term. Modern warfare.
Oh, yeah.
We learned that in Iraq. We toppled the Iraqi government and military, standing military, and what was it, a historic 2 weeks or something, tops.
Very short period of time.
Yeah, very short period of time. And then Afghanistan, there was no standing military really in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There were only the disparate
We pushed them into the caves in the mountains
Yes.
pretty quickly.
Yes, and
Libya.
and that goes back to Vietnam. I mean, we even even if so, the point is that the modern guerrilla warfare is so dangerous as a phenomenon. Now we want to go fight Iran for 20 years, and so the question really
Isn't that interesting? You just say 20 years because it's like, yeah, that's what the policy would be.
that's what it would be.
Yeah, let's be honest about that.
That's the default policy.
Right.
We're going to fight out, and here's what we're going to do. We're telling the world, and there's a real dangerous underlying current here that I don't think the American elites are being, our political leaders are being honest about. That, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But let's just take Iran on face value. What we're saying is we're gonna roll in there, and we're gonna carpet bomb Iran, and we're gonna kill their leaders, and we're gonna cut the head off the snake, and we're gonna cast triple the population of Iraq into the diaspora, and we are gonna fuel an insurgency in Iran that will never be suppressed. There's no way, and not only that, we want to do that at the same time that we plan to what? Take back Crimea, the Donbass, and push into Moscow?
Yeah.
We're going to take Moscow too? Right. So I mean, these people aren't going to surrender. And if they do surrender, then they're lying, and they were always in on it. So, but they're not going to surrender. And the issue now becomes Iran represents two things at once. They represent what you could argue is the most, yes, religious extreme repudiation of this Democrat liberal order. Now, I'm not saying that their version of how they want to live is anything that I would accept.
Right.
But fundamentally, they are the most extreme in rejecting the world order, okay? And they're proxied by both Russia and China, allegedly. They call that the Iron Triangle: Iran, China, Russia. And so what they are galvanizing behind the scenes is exactly what you saw when Bibi Netanyahu was speaking at the United Nations and 2/3 of the countries got up and walked out. They are galvanizing. They are the lightning rod. Iran is the lightning rod for the entire world's repudiation of how the United Nations and the Security Council use the United States dollar as a military tool to bully. And I'm not saying that makes them right.
Right.
That is just the situation we're in. And we have way less support out there internationally than we realize. We may be able to bend the market, and this goes back to that post-World War II Democrat liberal order and Kissinger, because their idea were the markets and the materialism would be the great offset to any ideological opposition. And that only works as long as you can service the debt. When you have $4 quadrillion in global bank debt and the economic disparity gets so high, then countries start to get ideas. They start to have their own plans.
Right.
And Iran is one of those countries, but there's a bunch of other ones out there. Some of them are in our hemisphere, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yep.
Brazil, Canada. I mean, even Canada's shaky, waffling. Right. I mean, they're more aligned with China than they are fundamental American values.
I agree.
So, we got big issues, and to just waltz into, no pun intended, to just waltz into a war with Iran, half cocked while the LGBTQ are flying the flag at home base is completely inappropriate, irresponsible, and unacceptable to me.
Well, I think I got to do this justice to Gunner's question. Let's go to Star Tribune's voter guide. I have to give Amy Klobuchar's position. She wouldn't come on the show. There we go. Royce and Amy. Will you attack Iran, says Amy. Let me get back to you. I got to ask my handlers.
Yeah. Pretty much.
We got a $1 Rumble rant. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Royce, why did you choose to run for the U.S. Senate versus local, something local, state House or state Senate?
Yeah.
I would think you would cause more change in this commie state from the inside. God bless. So,
well,
what's your thoughts on that?
I'm young. It's not outside the realm of possibilities. I'm not trying to do it for a career, so the salary had no bearing on the decision. The real decision was the best thing that's come from my campaign thus far is that we got a statewide barometer on where the Republicans are in Minnesota.
Expand on that. What do you mean by that?
Well, by my estimation, I'm the first what they call far right wing conspiracy MAGA extremist candidate.
Well, when they call you that, they got to be right.
Yeah, I'm the first.
They are always getting it right.
I'm the first white supremacist or black Nazi to win a statewide, election. And so for the Republican Party, it is a significant milestone that the MAGA, and it's not me. It's the ideas and it's the movement. But this is me winning at the state convention. Overwhelmingly, and then me winning a statewide primary in which it was highly contested, and I had no support from the establishment whatsoever, literally the lone wolf. It's a marker for where the Republicans are in Minnesota and subsequently the whole country, which is a good sign.
I agree. I think that you helped reshape the party as well, because I think it's in a whole new direction that, the Republican Party was never the grassroots, and, they put some stiff up there and tell us to vote for them. And we know that they would vote for the wars. We know they would vote for the spending. We know they'd do the exact same thing. Yeah. On the Iran thing, one thing I don't know if this is Trump's position, but I imagine what the theory is on why we'd want to even threaten them is we want to remove their nuclear capabilities. If Iran continues to have nuclear capabilities, Trump was even just talking about how he was working in an agreement with Russia and China to completely denuclearize the world. Obviously, Iran's probably not going to cooperate. We're going to have to do something about it. We don't want them to have nukes. We shouldn't allow them to.
If anybody, listen, respectfully, I love you, and I love Trump. There are some bad people around him still.
Oh yeah.
And if anybody believes that we have the surveillance capacity, both things can't be true. We can't have the surveillance capacity to really believe we can take a fine-tooth comb to Iran's nuclear projects and say that we couldn't see Hamas roll up to Israel on October 7th.
Sure.
Both things can't be true at the same time. So
Most likely not, especially considering how secure
Yes.
and how monitored
yes.
that border is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So both things can't be true.
I mean, they could, but I get your
Highly
point.
unlikely.
Yeah, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
exactly.
I mean,
Very-
almost statistically impossible. Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
because the whole region. I mean, you're watching the whole. Now,
Right.
Iran is 1,200 miles away from Israel, so it's not it's from here to Texas.
Right.
But the type of satellite capability that they suggest that we have to be able to run counterintelligence and surveillance on Iran's nuclear program would be so sophisticated that Israel, which is is monitored 2 times as much in surveillance, supposedly our alliance with Israel is almost solely based on their ability to provide intelligence in the region.
Well, you do realize that
So-
intelligence isn't always something that's like satellite capable.
I get it.
It could be human.
I
here,
get it.
And so,
But if you don't have intelligence about what people are doing next door to you, then don't tell me you have intelligence about what's going on in Yemen or Qatar.
Let me push back just slightly. Not that
Okay.
this really matters a lot, but you could have human sources inside
know.
the nuclear capabilities of Iran because it's a actual organized country, whereas it might be harder to have that inside of Hamas. I almost says Hezbollah, but they're all seeming to merge together these days. But inside of Hamas,
But not when
maybe-
you say Iran is a complete terrorist state from top down.
I would never say that.
Well, no, but they do.
Well, yeah,
They
I
say
don't
that the
listen to
entire
neocons.
Iranian regime and government
yeah,
is.
I see right through the tricks of the neocons. I mean, geez.
So I mean, if you're saying that, they're saying that there is a vertical integration between Iran as an Islamic caliphate state and all of their proxies all the way to Gaza.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not clean, and people make it sound like it's clean.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But I guess I don't want to see us go to war with Iran either. I think that
Right, it's dumb.
I don't mind seeing when General Soleimani got killed. I didn't really mind seeing it because if civilians are killed, that's a problem for me. But if a military general or a politician from Iran gets
Yeah.
killed, the Ayatollah, no skin off my back because those are people who were abusing human rights and
Right.
weren't respecting the freedom of their civilians. So. Would you support, bombing of a nuclear facility?
Yeah, I mean, have at it. Sure. I mean, but the real issue is, I mean, yeah, that you can, yeah, fine, bomb the nuclear facility, no problem. But the real issue is that our fundamental economic relationship with China is a suppository for all of our enemies, at least theoretically, all around the world. And we have no plans, no designs, no leader stepping up to really say we're going to make a fundamental pivot from letting China dominate the world economy. And if that's not going to be the case, then all of us who say we love and want to protect Israel are ultimately going to give our consumer dollars and our tax dollars to people who will attack Israel and justify sending our sons and daughters to perpetual war. I mean, the racket is so obvious. Come
I
on.
think bombing a nuclear site in Iran would be the cusp of perpetual war.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Do you
tough
think?
one
I
to
mean,
say.
the civilians probably wouldn't be all that upset.
Well, that's an interesting thing people don't understand about Iran is it's actually very westernized in terms of its younger culture.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's hope. There's actually been turmoil. There's been a revolution in Iran. For people that don't understand, Iran, actually, it's different. It's the Shia Muslims. It's just a very small, I don't want to say minority, but it's by numbers, it's a minority in terms of the Muslim population.
Right.
And what's really different is they actually have something called an Ayatollah, supreme leader. President's just a figurehead of state. The Ayatollah is the supreme leader in Iran. And there's a revolution. And to the point where there's actually a very infamous story, I think about a year ago, they killed a Olympic level wrestler because he was part of this revolution protesting against the government. So they obviously don't know freedom, but it's not like this is the thing that I hate about these wars. It's like people think that it's like a monolith. It's almost saying like we need to attack America because what Joe Biden does, and we're all over here going, we don't agree with Joe Biden. You know,
Right.
like what I'm saying.
Right.
But we almost forget like it's not like they're all Israel's a great case in point here.
Yeah, I mean, the
Netanyahu's
Ayatollah-
hated by his people right now.
Yes. Yeah.
He's almost clinging on to this war because it's like his last ditch effort to have some relevancy in the electorate.
Yeah.
Well, what is the New York? What does the Star Tribune voter guide tell? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the scary thing with Iran is this: both theories of the case leave us in a terrible position. The one theory of the case is that Iran is the titular head of their own sort of counter-Western agenda. And it's based in religious extremism or a pure hatred for Israel, and if that's the case, then that's a problem because we still have to deal with the implications of open kinetic war. The other scenario is that China or Russia are putting them up to it, supplying them and supporting them, which it appears they are because Russia obviously is posturing. They're in a war with the West at the same time. At least enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, but the scary part would be maybe it's possible that Russia and China are zooming them. Mm-hmm. Because if Iran is carpet bombed and falls, who gets their natural resources? Their closest next door neighbor.
Could be.
So China and Russia win either way.
Yeah.
If Iran falls, they get to clean up and pick up the pieces, like China's doing in Afghanistan, obviously. And if Iran wins, or if they drain us, let's say if they sustain some 20-year insurgency, it just drains the West anyway, and we don't make our own goods.
Yes, and that's a great point because that's in many regards how we keep losing in these wars these days. Is they're draining us. We're $7 trillion in from the Iraq and Afghanistan war. Let's go to this Rumble right here.
Yeah, RadTrad01 says, I would like all of you to opine on Trump's running away from the pro-life movement. As a Catholic dad of 7, it's quite troubling. So I guess we can start with you, Royce.
Thanks,
what do you
Trad.
think on, how Trump is positioning on abortion?
No easy questions today, huh? Ask me about basketball. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Catholic too, and the position on abortion as a spiritual and moral, ethical matter, I don't even think are debatable. Life starts at conception, and to take a life is a sin. My position legally, I would probably defer to Donald Trump in some sense because, the separation of church and state thing is a long-standing argument, been manipulated in multiple different ways. Sometimes even the Catholic Church. I remember when the Catholic Church was against prayer being read in the school back in I want to say in the 60s, maybe it was the 50s, because they didn't want the King James version. There's a Protestant version of the prayer being read. So even the Catholic Church has played a role in diminishing the common or normalcy of faith and religion in public institutions like the schools. So we got to pump our brakes, right, when we want to come back and then go. And my point in bringing that up is just as a general principle, the Christian stance on abortion should be, the Christian stance in general with separation of church and state should be, we don't want to force people to be Christian. We don't want to make people be Christian because God doesn't force us to be Christian. Our faith practice is a voluntary submission to the will and of God. So, what we're really doing with the abortion issue, and people can feel how they want about this. What we're really doing is we're displacing all of the cultural decay that ends up in a young woman's mind onto some 19-year-old girl who grew up in a communist and Marxist culture. And she doesn't know any better. I mean, she literally is brainwashed. It's like if somebody grew up in communist China, you would expect them to think like a communist because that's how they were raised. Yeah. And a lot of these young women are the same. They never knew God. They never knew the gospel. They haven't been to church. Their parents are half-time Christians at best, identify as Christians. They don't know the spiritual implications of many of the things in our society, even life. And that's something that we've allowed. We allowed communists and Marxists and Satanists to take our government and our schools. So the redemptive policy here is the only thing us Christians should be demanding is that the federal government doesn't get in our way in preaching the gospel. And we need to hopefully discourage young women from having abortions by preaching the gospel. And now the second thing is this. In conjunction with that, we don't want to force people to be Christian as a general principle. As far as abortion goes, I completely believe that Donald Trump and the MAGA movement should advocate for a change in legislation that would allow Christians all across this country or any other faith practitioners to not be forced to pay taxes on religious and conscientious basis. If any tax money, state or federal, goes to providing abortion services, you as a taxpayer should not have to
That'll boost church
pay.
church attendance real quick.
I hope that answers the
Okay,
question.
so I'm wondering what he's referring to. I think Trump's main position right now is to not
leave it to the states.
Yeah, leave it to the states, which is a position I've always been very sympathetic to.
Yeah, the Christian conservative right considers it a soft position on the pro-life matter.
Well, and it shouldn't be, because here's why. Even if there was a national abortion ban by Republicans, Trump takes over. He said multiple times he wouldn't have it. It can be reversed.
Right.
So the position, in my opinion, is you leave it up to states, as is murder charges, right? As is a lot of other criminal code, a lot of statutes, is a state statute. So leave it up to states.
And
What
nothing
screwed
is
up
going
this
to pass on
country-
abortion. Nothing is going to pass. They don't have the votes in the Democrats. They don't have the votes in the Republicans. So,
Right. Well, yes.
the Democrats especially like to use this as a political football so that they can.
But I think this gentleman has got
they
a
like
fair,
an issue to
I think
run
he's
on
got
forever.
a fair point. So then it really comes down to, because I like that position, keep it out of the hands of the federal government.
Right.
Okay. Then it comes down to Trump. I don't know what to believe on his views on pro-life. He was once for partial birth abortion before he ran for office.
I feel like it's pretty clear that at some point he is running for president, and you're not going to be able to get there if you are cutting off half of your people that are like, well, okay, but abortion, like maybe, like if you just pass a national ban, that's a lot of people that are like, I don't 100% agree.
He's
with
been
that.
very clear he's against
And there's
the
never going to be
ban.
a national ban.
Right.
He's been very clear against it.
But he's
I
not.
think
Yeah,
what this
he's
guy's
not
probably-
supportive of national ban.
But this guy
Right.
might be alluding to is he was asked a question as a Florida resident,
Yeah.
how he supports. I don't remember what the ballot issue was in Florida, but essentially there is momentum to basically overturn the current law in Florida.
They were going to bring the weeks. They were going to bring the number of weeks down, and Donald Trump said he was against it. Right.
Yeah. And so yes,
and now
I
he's
agree.
for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing. Is I don't think Trump really is.
Well, no, I think
in his heart.
he didn't exactly know what all the specific language was in the thing, because if you
possible,
look at
too.
any ballot measure ever, it says one thing in the title. That doesn't mean that's what it actually
But you
does.
understand, he's been all over this issue throughout his adult life, right? Before he was.
Maybe, as long as he's been president, it's been consistent that it's a state issue. It
Correct.
doesn't
Yes,
belong-
exactly. And that's it. Because eventually you have to make a decision. It's almost like someone's running for city council in let's just say Stillwater. I don't really care what their views are on Iran, because your job is to decide what's
Right.
going on in Stillwater. So as long as this position is to not have it decided at the federal government, I just think that's bad. Not that I would personally oppose a federal ban, but of course, if you have a federal ban on abortion right now and the culture's not right, which the culture's clearly not right,
Right.
young women are led to believe that this is their individual, I can't believe they say this, reproductive rights, even though it's anti-reproduction. It's the antithesis of reproduction because you're stopping the reproduction,
Yes.
but it's somehow their individual health care rights. Let's ignore the whole thing about the Democrats and vaccine mandates. And that's the culture, especially young women. I think a lot of young men are kind of duped in this thinking. And I think it also coincides with the fact that there's less church attendance.
Well, a lot of
these days.
young men. A
People
lot of
leave
young men
religion.
a lot of young men do a lot of things in politics to try and get laid, and there is this sort of sexual marketplace dynamic undergirding politics, where you see a lot of, and that's why I said a lot of times we got a cuck society, because a lot of men kowtow to the politics of the gender that they're trying to romantically and sexually pursue. It's just a phenomenon of our society, and probably any two-gender society. So yeah, I think men. Like when I was at the state fair, for example, you were there, but we were, I was out.
Did we not have a killer booth?
You
this year?
did.
Isn't that awesome?
Epic, legendary. Congratulations. That was epic. It was fun to see.
We
But
had
I
to
was
make that
standing.
decision 2.5 weeks before.
I love it. I love it. It's great.
Tim Walz. Oh, we better do that one instead.
I was standing outside the DFL booth, and I was just asking random people coming out what their top issues were, and I couldn't tell you how many men came out and said that reproductive rights were their top policy issue.
Wow.
Yeah, well, from that booth, that doesn't shock me.
Right. But
Yeah,
even,
man on
but
the
even
street
still,
doesn't say that.
Even
Yeah.
still, though, in the 1960s, when you go up to your average Democrat and ask them what their top issues were, they were going to say war. Or racism,
Economy.
or
Economy,
civil
yeah,
rights,
right.
or economy, or any number of, or not having a tyrannical government, things like that.
Right.
They weren't going to say women's reproductive rights,
That
abortion.
that was
Men.
Eric's top issue. All the I talked to him about politics
Oh,
every
yeah.
so often, and Eric was like, "Oh, I'm a one-issue voter, and it's abortion."
Huh.
That-
Yeah,
it kinda
some
makes
people
you
are
wonder
that way.
why.
I don't know, but
It's weird. It's just that now that's weird.
It was
yeah,
something
and,
about.
I know we mentioned the vaccine thing. I was looking at Amy Klobuchar's voting record. She's got a 98% voting record with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, so she's voted in line with them every single time.
Right.
And one thing I was looking at, even I was
Pull
trying
up
to,
the A2.
Can you
Doug.
text
Yeah,
me?
go
Can
ahead
you
and pull
text me a
up that.
screenshot of that?
Because
graphic?
we got a good graphic here, and it lists out some of these votes, and it shows there 98%. Amy Klobuchar is voting with them 98% of the
Rubber
time.
stamp.
Minnesota does not agree with Joe Biden 98% of the time, so that's a joke. And then I look at some of these votes that are on here. Some of the times where it says that she disagreed with them, it's just because she didn't show up to vote. So it's not that she had a genuine disagreement; it's that she didn't do her job. And I'm looking at vaccine mandates. There were 3 separate votes on it. One was providing for congressional disapproval of vaccine mandates. She voted against that. Providing for congressional disapproval of vaccine mandates for healthcare workers. She didn't show up to vote on that. And then providing for congressional disapproval of COVID vaccine mandates for large businesses. She voted against that. So, when you go down the record, she wants to claim that she's for healthcare freedom. No, she's for aborting fetuses. Because if you look at what, medical freedom really is about, she's been nothing but in line with Joe Biden, nothing but in line with the establishment, and nothing but pushing the COVID, insane agenda.
Yeah, of course. Doesn't shock me.
And, I imagine that you're a free thinker. I don't think that you're going to be voting 98% or 100% with Trump. I think that you're probably going to be looking at a lot of these issues on their own. And obviously, when bills are unconstitutional, multi-subject omnibus, I imagine that that's not going to be up your alley either.
I would. I'm not signing an omnibus bill no matter who it comes down from. And maybe in the establishment, even Trump's team knows that about me. Maybe that's why they're slow to back me or support me, because I'm not going to be a rubber stamp for anybody.
Yep.
But I'm definitely 100% in support of Donald Trump's candidacy. I think he's a far and away better choice than many presidents we've had in recent American history.
Right.
And I think that he's going to do a lot. And obviously my views align with his, which is why my billboard has my face next to his. I'm not shying away from
where's
Donald
this
Trump.
at? I didn't know you had a billboard up.
Yeah, I got a mobile billboard with me and Trump on it. It says fight, yeah.
Nice.
Where is it in the cities?
Yeah, it's around. It's going around the cities every
that's
day.
great.
Yeah,
That's
full
great.
time.
It's in the
Right, and
cities.
But
those bills-
I support him.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that I'm going to let an omnibus bill come through that Senate floor.
Right.
The whole basis of my candidacy, my campaign is, we're not letting a single omnibus get passed on that Senate floor. And that really, they can talk about my tweets, they can talk about my debt, they can talk about child support, they can talk about anything they want to. The reality is they know that one man actually does have some legitimate influence to slow the omnibus process there in the United States Senate. And the filibuster is how you would do it.
Well, I mean, the way that they actually pass these things doesn't allow it in the end, because they Thomas Massey had this great thing we played on the show. I mean, they basically throw this thing at them right before Christmas break.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, but you can
Well, let me
stand
ask
up
you
there.
this.
You can stand up there and filibuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if they vote to, so
They'd have to vote to end the filibuster.
yeah, how does it work?
Which would be revealing in the utmost fashion.
Well, it really would,
because,
yeah.
Right, it'd be the rhinos that are getting you to shut up.
That's right. And that is what you have to do.
Right. And
That's what we did with this
exactly.
campaign.
Yup, and
You filibuster
that
and you make the
situation-
Republicans come to the American people and say, we want omnibuses so bad, we're going to take the young, rising Republican Senate candidate from Minnesota, and we're going to throw him out of the Senate because he's too disruptive to the status quo. Victory.
Yeah, I mean,
Rejoice.
disrupt
Everything's
the status
clear.
quo, and the status quo has got us
Yes.
$36 trillion in debt, whatever it is. I always forget
So,
$35 trillion.
Mitch
36
McConnell.
What is the difference these days? Right?
Yeah, I
Another
was just thinking,
trillion.
Mitch McConnell, he's on his way out as the GOP leader for the U.S. Senate. Let's say you get in there. Who's the kind of Republican that you're looking at to replace him as the new leader? Would it be, Carrie Lake? Maybe she gets in there. Rand Paul?
Don't
who are
bias
some of
his
the people?
answer. Don't buy. What are you doing? Don't bias his
Well,
answer.
he can answer for himself.
Is it Mitt Romney? Who is it? Tell us.
Doubt it's Romney.
I like Rand Paul. I love Carrie. She's great. I put myself up there first.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's bold.
I put myself. I love Rand, but you know they beat Rand up a couple years back, and that had an obvious effect on him. I mean, you know, try with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you got to kill me in the cover of night. There ain't going to be any Antifa protesters running up to intimidate me there in D.C. We know that for sure. I'll be knocking Antifa protesters out one by one, 100% clip.
Right.
One punch, one
knockout. The leader has to go out and do the media.
Yes.
You have to go out and make the case to the American people that this is the agenda the Republicans are pushing. This is, you know, our strategy. And honestly, you'd be way better than Rand Paul, Kerry Lake, or any of them because,
look, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is this. Rand shouldn't have to do it. You know, the young men should fight these wars, and that is going to be an epic knockdown, drag out fight there in the Senate. And I respect Rand and his father. I mean, Ron's it can't even be quantified how right Ron Paul was about everything he said. You know, I put him up there with Alex Jones and Donald Trump. Yeah. You know, Trump was right, Alex Jones was right, Ron Paul was right. And I love Ron and I love Rand. I'm just saying, you know, I have a different temperament than Rand does. And I think my temperament would be better suited for this type of what is going to be a sort of nuclear fight.
Agree with that.
On that floor.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Rand has a role. It's just clearly not leading that kind of fight. He's maybe more of a silent operator.
He's a doctor. I mean, he's a
optometrist,
he's a nourisher. He's a wellness kind of guy. He's a nice guy. Now he's very sharp and he says things that are true, but he's not militant. And this fight that we're going to have in the United States Senate going forward is going to take a little bit of Christian militants.
It's going to be bad.
It's going to be crazy.
There's the next thing the media is going to attack you on, Christian militant. We got it. All right, let's pull up the polls here. I got Real Clear Politics. Dustin, this is the C1. So this is according to Real Clear Politics, which I like. They're taking all the polls. They're averaging it out. Obviously not a lot of polling done here, but we all know Star Tribune, Mason-Dixon had a poll, which had you actually tied in the suburbs. Do I have that right? Tied in the suburbs, leading in Greater
and with
Southern.
the independents. I don't know how she's up 11 if we're tied in the suburbs.
Well,
with
because when you look at these polls, you have actually quite a bit of undecided. So look at, according right now, the RCP average, and that includes a poll that goes back to August, which is almost irrelevant in the world of politics. It has Klobuchar at 49.5%. She's under 50%. She has not been under 50% in any of her elections. She's under 50%. It has you at 37.8%, which outperforms all the other candidates that's run against her. Kurt Bills. I can't remember Mark Kennedy's numbers, but all the ones since she's been reelected. So Kurt Bills, then
Newberger,
Jim Newberger.
Well,
and so
I
11
think scroll down a
basically
little bit, Dawson. I think it's right on that page.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, those are the 2018 results, 2012 results. So 30.5% in 2012 for Kurt Bills, and then 36% for
so you're already
Newberger.
outperforming those two.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a 11 point, almost 12 points undecided.
Well, let's talk about the undecideds real quick if we can. We got time?
I got another hour. I mean, we're gonna do a post show with you.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I've got time. I was just wondering how because it's 1:59. But
no, we're Royce. You can make extended hours.
Oh, I'm with
Come on. You guys want them in extended hours? There's no rules.
I love it.
When we bring people into our studio, like customers, we say, there's really no rules in podcasting. There really isn't. Joe Rogan, everyone told him not to do 3 hours, and he makes it work. And some people can't do more than 5 minutes.
Him, Alex Jones, and Eddie Bravo is the best podcast. In
oh
history.
yeah, that was good.
But I want to talk about the 11% undecided because there are some people in there who have a general feeling that anybody who's in for as long as Amy's been in are probably more part of the problem than they are the solution. So that's in there. But I really think what the 11% more or less represents is a far left emerging, very politically prominent movement coming out of the universities that has a repudiation of our Israel policy and is of more of the free Palestine worldview. And they view Amy Klobuchar and the Democrats, and this is going on all across the country. This is the undecided movement on the Palestine issue all across the country. right?
It's a faction of it, no doubt about it.
No doubt. And so I think now they say usually 2/3 of the undecided cut against the incumbent because people are tired of the incumbent.
In certain years, that's true.
Yes.
Some years it's not.
On average, though.
Yeah.
Most of the time they say.
Generally, there's a problem, and then the people that get blamed are the incumbents.
That's right. Right. So we know a lot of times Democrats look past all their political leaders, in failures. But there's a Palestine thing. And I just think to myself, there is no greater sign of political theater than this far left Free Palestine movement pretending like they have any problem with our Israel policy and vote for politicians like Amy.
Right.
I mean, if you really want to see the titular railhead of New World Order and uniparty politics, all you have to do is look at our Israel policy. Go to AIPAC's landing page, scroll down. You'll see 6 politicians, 3 from each side of the aisle. You got, on our side, Tom Emmer, Scalise, and Speaker Mike Johnson. And on the Democrat side, you have Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, and Aguilar. I mean, right there, you pretty much see the entire
leadership
spectrum of American politics, excluding the Ilhan Omars, right? I mean, her radical end of it seems to be left off of that scale. But everything from, I mean, these people, if anybody thinks that Hakeem Jeffries isn't a part of the same radical Democrat agenda that Ilhan Omar and AOC are, you're a fool. And so if you're out there and you're a far left college student and you're like, hey, I think what Israel's doing in Palestine is wrong, then by default, you cannot vote for Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
You just can't vote for her because AIPAC has given her $750,000.
Yeah, no one. You got to be dumb if you believe that she's going to be a difference in policy on that. Go ahead with
we got a $5 rumble in. Failed Cannon says it's a hang. So obviously, in reference to the podcast,
well, it's a reference of many mistakes that the host is making. Obviously, Failed Cannon. Go back to that Real Clear Politics, and let's go into basically the crosstabs here. Just click on the Star Tribune. See Star Tribune poll. And scroll down here. You're gonna see a chart. Keep going. Right there. Can we blow that up? So in terms of Hennepin, Ramsey County, Amy Klobuchar is up 67% to your 25%. Less than 1% someone else. Ooh, we had Rebecca Whiting in the studio. Nice lady. Have you met her?
I met her at Farm Fest.
Yeah. So, I mean, just no one's shocked. I think independents or people, third parties are just not getting much these days. They're gravitating towards the major parties. And then 8% undecided. When we look at the rest of the metro, so technically, obviously, Hennepin and Ramsey have suburbs. But the rest of the metro, you are tied with Amy Klobuchar, 45-45. I am supposed to be under the belief by all the people on Twitter that you're losing the white suburban mom vote, right?
Ain't
but it doesn't look like
Ain't that interesting? For as radical as the MAGA movement is, and Donald Trump and all of us that are these far right-wing conspiracy theorists, even myself who said, women are too mouthy, which was taken out of context. But, by all standards, I'm supposed to be a mook in terms of white suburban voters. And for some reason, I think this is like the dawn of a new age. The white suburban voter is so discontent with Democrat policy that even I'm palatable, right? Remember? I mean, Steve Daines, right, chairman of the NRSC, Rhino extraordinaire, Mitchell McConnell's lapdog.
Montana senator.
Yes. Steve Daines said that I wasn't palatable enough to win a primary, let alone a general. And here I am. Just by this standard alone, Steve Daines he should be discredited, right? Because
and Steve Daines,
they don't even know who I'm going to be honest. I'm not even sure a lot of these people know who I am. What's funny about it is the greatest thing they've done in this election, and to all real, let's say real candidates, I don't even want to give them a party or a movement, any real candidates across the country, is they suppress the exposure to the public. If half of these people actually heard me and Amy Klobuchar talk, which they're going to hear on October 27th at 9 a.m. on WCCO Radio.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, where it's so irrelevant, close to election.
Yes. Sunday morning
on radio.
Yes, but we're going to get we're going to get the audio and rerun it back the last week.
yeah.
And we're actually going to do an ad campaign where we take I shouldn't even say this because she'll probably not show up now, but we're going to take the entire debate and push it to YouTube and all the other platforms as an official ad. So you'll have the whole hour debate as an ad, so everybody gets a chance.
I think there's better things to do with your money, but we'll talk.
Yeah, no. Well, let's not tell them then. Let my stupid ideas stand. But
you keep talking about the issues there, Royce.
Yeah, the thing is that Amy, if people actually heard me talk juxtaposed to Amy, I don't even think this election would be close.
Well, I just think about the way we started out this podcast. None of this is scripted. It was going to bring up the one thing about the World War II. In fact, I thought already I knew how you were going to answer that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we just got into it. We're having this real developed conversation. By the way, I agree with you. Like the world changed after World War II.
Yeah.
America is basically hijacked by global elites who want to run our country basically at the hard work of us, we the people.
Yes.
And I'm thinking if Amy Klobuchar was in here, I know what she would say because it's just the talking points of the Democrat Party. I already hear Kamala trying to say those.
We have
I hear Tim Walz saying those.
To support our allies, and we have to have peace through strength. And Russia is bad, and the Chinese are bad too, but kind of we like their totalitarianism, so we're going to give them a pass.
And Royce White's a Putin asset.
Yes, and Royce White is a misogynist, homophobic, white supremacist. Oops, we didn't mean to say white supremacist.
Who doesn't believe in women's reproductive rights?
There you go.
Royce is up in southern Minnesota 48-42, in northern Minnesota 50-44. Amongst men, he gets 50%. And amongst women, or men, and then Amy's 39%. Amongst women, currently at 31%, and Klobuchar is at 62%. Amongst alpha men, 100%. Amongst beta males, 0%. Against non-binary, just kidding. These aren't in there. It's Star Tribune, please. I mean, let's make it fun.
Yeah.
You have 1% amongst DFL and Democrat voters. Amongst Republicans, you have 83%. Now, this is actually a big news story. It says amongst Republicans, she only has 3%. That has not been the case in the past. Amongst independents, you are winning by a point, 44-43%.
No.
So,
are you kidding me? The last time I checked, I was down 2 points with the independents.
Pull it up, Dustin.
Which one?
You got to double check.
You were on it. It was the Star Tribune. It was the.
If I'm up with the independents, this thing is over.
Scroll down a little bit there.
I don't even trust polls, but.
Well, now you do.
No, I don't trust them now.
You're like Trump. I'm bleeding on the polls.
No, they could say that I'm up, but I still don't trust them.
Right there. Well, yeah, but so in Minnesota, you would want to oversample Democrats because there are more Democrats in Minnesota than Republicans. However, we don't know who shows up on election day.
So what do you think about the 200,000 Republicans they say are registered that didn't show up? Do you think that's a real number, or are they fleecing us on that?
Well, I mean, judging by modeling and stuff, there's 100%, hundreds of thousands of Republicans.
So are there really more Democrats than Republicans?
Well, yes, in Minnesota there are more Democrats that do vote.
Even with the 200,000?
Yeah, even because they didn't have everyone show. Because that's the thing that doesn't get talked about. So you're winning amongst independents. But you have to remember that, honestly, you can look at the internals here. It's obviously they're overpolling Democrats, which I would do too.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, who turns out their base? Trump is a needle mover. Trump's going to turn out more people. So if I was to make an argument, I don't necessarily believe you're going to win this election. By God, if I wake up on November 6th and you won, I'm going to be a happy son of a bitch. But I'll tell you this. If you win, a big reason you won is Republicans turned out en masse opposed to the Democrats. Democrats aren't getting a surge of people because I don't think they believe Trump's winning the state. There's more. So in other words, they don't believe that they have to show up to stop Trump from winning Minnesota.
I get it.
There's probably more belief on the Trump side that they can take back Minnesota. And so if you win, it's because more Republicans show up or more new Republicans or new people that will support Trump and they say, I actually like Royce White. By the way, traveling northern Minnesota, you got a lot of signs out there.
Amen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't seen that with other candidates.
The people are coming.
Yep.
Amongst college degrees, people with college degrees, and this one I would imagine, no college degrees, Klobuchar actually has a point up on you, 46-45. Amongst the educated college graduates, she leads 57-34. That just follows suit with what we see pretty much everywhere else. Oh, by the way, I missed this. Amongst Republicans, 12% said undecided. So that would be the number that have gone to Amy Klobuchar in the past. I think a lot of these guys will come home. And then amongst whites, you are down 47-43. And amongst non-whites, so any of the others, 79. I mean, I thought they would have done black vote, but I guess they don't. So just non-white.
Yeah, of course not.
79 to 15%. So those are
that is the real elephant in the room, so to speak, is the black vote. We'll see if it even is a vote. And again, it's kind of a poetic justice that continuously we see black America for whatever. First of all, I don't think we have any real clear number about how many black people live in this country. I think it's a complete farce. That it's 40 million. I don't know one black person in my neighborhood that ever answered a U.S. Census Bureau. Didn't happen.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just not a common cultural thing.
I mean, why would you guys trust government?
You think it's more?
I think there's probably 60 million to 70 million black people live in the country. Yeah, and I'm talking American blacks. I'm not talking Haitian immigrants. But even the idea that black people are. See, I think about the election, and I think about the narrative of the elections. And the narrative of the election is that it's assumed black people are voting Democrat. So at 2 o'clock in the morning in Michigan, when the polls close and we need a bump, obviously they're going to come from the greater Detroit area. I'm not buying it anymore. And I think right now what Donald Trump has exposed with all of the support of him from the black community is that we shouldn't trust that narrative, that these swing states are going to show a push of Democrat votes from black communities in the 12th hour or after the clock expires, let's say. Now Minnesota is different because obviously we have a much smaller black population in Philadelphia, Detroit, and greater Atlanta. However, if you talk about the black and Hispanic vote, which is that working class movement is kind of the new beating heart of the MAGA movement. There's almost 500,000 black and Hispanic voters in the state of Minnesota. I mean, that is a huge number. Let's not be assuming that these Mexicans and these black folks are going to vote Democrat. And so when they say they didn't poll the black, there's no black vote. That's on purpose.
It's just all the others, right? Let's go to that.
And one quick
but
thing.
But you can't say, when you're the Star Tribune, just as a point, you can't say all the others when your entire platform is based on using black people as the racial identity linchpin.
When I look for my voting
can we
guide,
get an
I
independent
go right to
poll?
Star Tribune here.
What kind of racial undercut is that? The blacks don't get a poll, but we're supposed. Listen to this: the blacks don't get their own poll. But we're supposed to vote for Kamala because she's black. Okay, I got it, Star Trib. I see how you're working it.
And all you guys, you can't possibly have voter ID because you're incapable of getting a voter ID.
But you need one to get in the DNC.
Yeah, you do.
You need 3 ID checks to get in the DNC.
By golly, to get on an airplane. Airlines are racist.
For sure.
The TSA's racist.
Yes, they are.
All the liquor stores. That's systemic racism is liquor stores that ID you. Clearly,
unbelievable.
Black people can't get IDs.
You cannot get it. There are, and if they're trying to suggest that there are liquor stores out there that are risking their liquor license by giving out, by selling liquor to patrons that don't have IDs, that is not. Even the liquor stores in the hood, you're showing that ID, Chief.
Yeah,
we're not, because it's usually not black folks who own the liquor store. And there's a little bit of a cultural separation between some of the Arab communities and some of the Jewish communities that own liquor stores, or Hispanics. Usually it's not black people owning those liquor stores in those black communities, densely black communities. They're not risking their liquor license to sell you liquor if you don't have an ID, a government ID. So
but how
black
are
people
you
have
guys
IDs.
getting IDs? You're incapable of doing that.
That's just, they're just.
God, it's amazing. All right, let's go to that Rumble Rat. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I just want one quick thing. I was thinking, as you were saying that, anybody who's got an Amy Klobuchar yard sign in their yard, and then they also got a Black Lives Matter or a Free Palestine yard sign, they're the biggest hypocrites. It's such a cognitive dissonance because, they're voting against what their own supposed interests are if they, claim Black Lives Matter. Really, why vote for someone that locked up Mayan Burrell? Why vote for someone that let Derek Chauvin off when supposedly Black Lives Matter?
I want to say something about that real quick. You know what's funny is Myron Burrell. Such an interesting case because, Myron Burrell represents a story of a lot of young black men that come from the community I came from, and one or two wrong turns could have irretrievable consequences, ramifications on a young man's life. And I'm not saying whether or not he was guilty or innocent, but what I am saying is that his case was severely and provably mishandled. And the prosecution, there was clear prosecutorial misconduct and handling of the evidence in the case with police, even so much as they're on the record having offered the lead homicide detective got a witness, an eyewitness in the room, or a cooperating witness in the room, and offered him $500 cash to give Myron Burrell's name. The case right there, the evidence chain is broken. That is a miscarriage of evidence, investigation, and justice. So Myron Burrell's case represents what Amy and many of these Democrats, like Kamala, for example, who's also a shady prosecutor and threw black people in
she's
jail.
bragging about how she locked up so many people. You know,
do you guys know the name Cherry Peoples?
No.
Oh, I got to break this to you guys.
Okay.
Okay, get this Rumble round of the way.
Okay.
Then this will be good. You guys will be interested in this story.
Let's see. For Royce White's campaign and Rumble shares, let's hit more Belly of the Beast events in Minneapolis and St. Paul, not just sporting events. Hit me up. I need a small yard sign, and I'm willing to throw my PCR to you. So
that's razzle dazzle. By the way, PCR doesn't comply with or apply to federal candidates, just so you know. But cheapo, just give them the $75 you would have got returned anyhow, or you're married, so $150. T-Wall, in my opinion, if people really knew where you stand on the issues, they'd pick you over Klobuchar. I 100% agree with that.
Right. And, on the Mayan Burrell thing, they also excluded evidence from his case, where he said, I was at Cub, go look at the security footage. Amy Klobuchar wouldn't even allow the footage to be released. And, they wanted a prosecution so bad that they...
But no, what I meant to say about that whole situation wasn't that Klobuchar is a shady prosecutor, because obviously she was. But she was. But the scary part is when you look at that number of Republicans that are still undecided, the reason why Amy Klobuchar got in the first place is because she was seen as a tough on crime prosecutor.
Yeah.
And that way, in that rule of law, sort of a tough judicial persona was appealing to some of our Republican constituents. They didn't realize the rule of law was going to be weaponized against us the way it has been.
Yeah, she put people like Donald Trump away.
Yeah, and she would.
She prosecuted people like Donald Trump.
She would in a heartbeat. Kamala, you're right. But
that's what Amy Klobuchar would. I could see her using that
for sure
same thing.
In a heartbeat. She hasn't done it yet because she's still trying to hold on to that little constituency.
Let's be quiet here.
They flee even. But you know what's funny? I just happened to come across a Fox News clip because I get tagged in all the Minnesota stuff. And would you believe I found Joe Tayrab on Fox News shilling for the verdict that came down against Myron Burrell.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He was right there on Fox News criticizing Governor Walz. He was using it as a Governor Walz criticism because Walz was the one who commuted the sentence. Right. But what he's really doing is acting as the controlled opposition outer guard to keep black people from Minneapolis from joining the Republican movement.
Wow.
And that's how this uniparty thing really went. And I'm not saying don't vote for Joe Tayrab down in 2. What I'm saying is follow the money.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. Look, I don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't like him. Now, Tom Emmer can be mad at that all he wants to, or anybody else. When I hear a United States prosecutor give any type of legitimacy to a sentence that came down where the evidence clearly showed prosecutorial misconduct, these people are no friend of Donald Trump. I don't care if they're endorsed, and I don't care what they say. Now, we all may be so caught up in the fray and the chaos that we miss those small details, but I'm not. And that's why I'm running for United States Senate, because I'm meticulous.
Right. And
and the Joe Tayrab, they don't fool me.
Right.
They don't fool me one bit.
I didn't see that clip, but I mean, that
shows, go look it up. You'll find it.
No, I mean,
front
that shows
center.
the difference between the Republican Party.
It was right after he.
The truth hurts, doesn't it?
It was right after he and Fishbach and Speaker Mike Johnson were down there at the precinct
really? That one?
A couple days later, he was on the record on Fox News, and he was criticizing Governor Tim Walz, which is completely legitimate, but he used Amy Klobuchar's verdict as to criticize him. And the funny thing is, well, then why doesn't Governor, who is the real opposition here then? Is the real opposition that they let one guy off of a life sentence? Or is the real opposition the power of the – everybody knows right now, you guys know this better than anybody. The real elephant in the room is about the legitimacy of the elections in general and whether or not our votes are secure. And nobody wants to have that fight because we all realize it's a legal fight, and the legal field overwhelmingly tilts liberal because we let the liberals and the communists take the law schools too. So, you know, who's the real threat here?
Yeah.
The real threat is not, Myron Burrell, whether guilty or innocent. I don't know, right? I wasn't, but I know that the case was mishandled.
Right.
And that
D4.
Well, and you know, most people would say, especially after all the evidence has come out and after everything that's been said, I think the majority of people think he was not guilty. And you know, even Amy Klobuchar had to even say something to that effect.
Right.
So, you know, it's very clear to me, and I think it's awesome that, you know, you're saying things exactly how I'm feeling it, because you know, we've got these standard Republican rhinos who have been pushing this, you know, bland authoritarian message that TARAB is continuing to carry the water for.
Right.
Meanwhile, you're using the exact same issue, but on the opposite side of the coin, to expose the Democrats for how authoritarian they are. That's what the Republican Party is supposed to be, and that's why I'm glad you're the nominee, because if Frazier was the nominee, we wouldn't be getting any of this.
He's saying the same. He wouldn't be
Scroll
saying
down
anything.
here. This is off Alpha News, as we all know.
Run that clip. Oh, man, run that.
Go ahead,
I
play
told
this.
you guys.
And I think Tim Walz has to
steel
answer
trap
for
memory.
this. There's a man in Minnesota, a criminal named Mayan Burrell. And some people might know his story because Mayan Burrell is a Bloods criminal street gang member. I charged the Bloods in a more recent case. But Mayan Burrell shot and killed an 11-year-old girl who was doing her homework on her kitchen table in Minneapolis. He was convicted, and he did almost 20 years in prison. And after he maintained his innocence, which he definitely wasn't, guess who commuted his sentence? Tim Walz commuted his sentence. And not long after being off of probation for 3 months, this criminal, Mayan Burrell, got picked up for having drugs and a gun in his car.
Oh, God.
And guess who bailed him out? Because he was set free. Guess who bailed him out?
The Freedom Fund.
The Minnesota Freedom Fund.
Okay.
The same fund that Kamala
obviously,
Harris.
Very good talking
Wow.
points there, but yeah.
Oh man, why is TARAB so upset about someone having a gun? You know, are we not supposed to be
Well,
I
a
would
country
be
that
opposed
respects
to
the
someone
Second
that's
Amendment?
a criminal or violent.
Well, wait a
But
second.
Mayan Burrell was not a criminal.
Let's break it back.
He's assuming he is there.
Let's break it back down to the basics. There's nothing about what that gentleman just said that shouldn't frighten you in your sleep as an American citizen who believes in the Constitution. And the fact that he's a federal prosecutor tells me everything I need to know about where this country went down the wrong road. We gave up our freedom for security, and convenience will be the death of American liberty. And what he just said, that first off, and again, I wasn't there. I don't know if Myron Burrell is ultimately guilty or innocent or not. I know that there's a judicial process, and you are presumed, the presumption of innocence is the default, okay, especially in a criminal case. Myron Burrell went into prison at 17, 18 years old, and he spent 20 years there. Now, if he actually served
16, yeah.
If he actually served a prison sentence of which he was innocent, I would actually expect an individual like that to come out and be completely torn, psychologically, spiritually, probably physically, and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't shock if we assume that the commute of the sentence was legitimate based on prosecutorial misconduct, then at least he knew he didn't get a fair trial.
Yeah.
And even that would have implications. So to think that person would have drugs and a gun doesn't shock me. The second thing that he said is a great tale is about these gangs. And see, here is this is the real coffin corner of American politics and the uniparty. Yeah, this black gang thing, that's a great boogeyman of let's make clear distinctions between black gangs and Venezuelan gangs of illegal immigrants. And when we fail to make that distinction, we fail to acknowledge American history, potent American history, where the first black street gangs in this country came out of the new high-rise projects in a place like Chicago, where they incentivized the woman to kick their fathers, these young men's fathers, out of the home in exchange for welfare. And those young men who didn't have fathers, they went down to the street, they went down to the park, and they hung out amongst each other. They became each other's father, And at the time in the 60s, when these projects first rose up, there was a real sort of racial segregation in the city where you'd have, let's say you lived in Cabrini Green projects in Chicago. And you and your 13, young men that all didn't have fathers now because of the welfare laws, you guys want to go to a swimming pool in the summer. So you go venture off over to the Italian neighborhood, and you get your ass kicked, because those Italians back then in Chicago in their neighborhood, they weren't scared of no black folks. They'd give you a swift kick in your rear end for showing up in their neighborhood. And so you start to have this sense of vibe. And I'm not chilling for or covering from gangs. What I'm saying is this.
Well, it's understandable.
There are a lot of young black men that are in gangs.
Yeah.
And right now, you go on the internet right now, and you can find all these former gang leaders who are black gang leaders saying, we're voting for Trump. There's a reason why. It's not because they have a sense of connectivity with the criminality of Donald Trump. That's stupid. No, they are the byproduct of what Marxist and Democrat policies have yielded in these black communities, and over a lifetime and generations, they see the pitfalls. And when he goes on and he labels the entire Bloods street gang as this, the Bloods have to, the Bloods, I never forget when George Floyd happened, and I was there on the south side of Minneapolis because I grew up there. I remember there was a liquor store. Funny, we explained it. We talked about liquor store. Yeah. There's a liquor store there, right there in that area, and there were a bunch of Antifa members, people dressed in black, that were burning and looting and knocking out windows and so on and so forth. And the Blood Street gang in that neighborhood was protecting the local liquor store.
Interesting.
They were standing out front, beating up activists, far left Antifa, George Soros funded activists, because they regarded that territory and that liquor store as their own homegrown business. And they weren't going to allow somebody to just come in and burn it down no matter what their reason was. Well, and I'm not saying the Bloods are okay, but what I'm saying is when Tayrab says that, he doesn't want black people voting for me or him or Trump or anybody. And if he's too dumb to know that, then he shouldn't be running.
Well, I mean, gang is just synonymous in many regards to tribe, right? It's a tribal tendency, and you're 100% right. The culprit of this are policies that shifted, basically took fathers out of people's lives in the inner city.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
Through the rule of law.
Like, what do you think's going to happen from that?
Yes.
So it's 100%. Let's go ahead and read that.
Tucker 91 $5 Rumble Rant says, Royce, the governor's pheasant opener is this weekend, October 11th to 12th in Sleepy Eye. Walls and Flanagan will be there. You should come and hang out and talk to the people of the local brewery. Live music Friday.
No, Royce, I don't know what your plans are for this weekend. We suggest.
Is that where Jensen's from, Sleepy Eye?
No. Well, I could see why you think that.
Where's Jensen?
No, I think he's no. He lives there, but he was originally from Sleepy Eye, Minnesota.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
Well,
so
that's his hometown.
You didn't take Tushi's suggestion about the coveralls or overalls with for Farm Fest with the straw hat.
Yeah, I think I won that one, didn't I? Joe Frazier looked crazy showing up with that cowboy hat. So.
Oh yeah,
it's just so fun. It's so predictable. So now we want to make you into just one of standard run-of-mill politicians. I will put a brand new, no marks, no dirt, blaze orange vest on you. And because you've been a hunter as long as Kamala's been a hunter, right? So why don't we get you out there in the field with Tucker for the pheasant opener with a brand new blaze orange vest? Would you do it? Would you pretend to be a hunter for quick minute, just for the campaign season?
Well, I'll say this: back in the day when my Norwegian family were real Vikings, they weren't egalitarian Finocchios like they are up there in Scandinavia now. We would ride down into a village and we would kill anybody who was unfit to work. That's the blood that I got pumping through my veins. Mom, that's a joke, but my point is, I don't know if I don't know if this close to an election where I'm tied or up 1 point with the independents, I'd do any. Hunting accidents happen all the time. Wasn't it Dick Cheney who shot somebody?
Yeah, the guy who apologized.
Funny, we're having this conversation now against neocons and rhinos, and I should go hunting, but Dick Cheney shot one of his boys at a local hunting trip, ain't he?
All right,
I think we'll stay away for now.
Let me start closing this down because then we're going to do the post show. Post show's going to be great because we got Tushi's working on a jingle for Amy Klobuchar. You get to hear it first there, and all you subscribers. Not a subscriber, and you want to hear Tushi's brand new jingle. We're going to play his Oompa Loompa for Josh Heintzman here before we go to the post show. But make sure you join, subscribe, $8 a month. Just click on join right on Rumble. Or you can go to truthhurtsnews.com. Right on the top banner, you can sign up there, and you can be part of our post show. This is Cherry, C-H, Dawson, pull up, let's see, D5. Cherry, spelled C-H-E-R-E, Peoples. This is an article by NPR. The date is 2020, October 17th, 2020. Our latest episode of Code Switch, we took a look at vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor. By the way, we're going to get into the real criminals here, guys, parents of truant kids, and how she used her power as San Francisco's district attorney and later as California's attorney general to shape the criminal justice system. And of that record, one of the initiatives that has drawn the most attention is the truancy program that she pushed in the state legislature. Passed in 2011, the law allowed district attorneys to charge parents with a misdemeanor if their children missed 10% of the school year without a valid reason. In 2019, HuffPost reporter Molly Redden wrote about the families affected by the truancy program, including a black mother named Cherry Peoples, who was arrested in April of 2013. She came on the show to help explain why this program, which initially launched without much criticism, ended up becoming so controversial and why it disproportionately affected families of color. Here's the extended cut, and of course, if you read this article, it talks about it. Cherry is a mother in California, and her daughter had a chronic illness. It was sickle cell anemia, a really painful genetic disease that caused lots of complications. It's pretty typical for people who live with this disability to miss a lot of school if they're children. As her daughter missed a lot of school for valid medical reasons, Cherry and the school were in a dispute about how to accommodate and account for those absences. She lived in Orange County, which is fairly conservative, law and order type of county. The district attorney there was up for re-election, and he did a big truancy sweep under the law. Once again, Kamala Harris pushing for this. When she was the DA of San Francisco, and oversaw its implementation when she was Attorney General. There was a big sweep, and one of the parents arrested that morning and perp walked in front of some cameras was Cherry Peoples. They arrested a mother of a child who had sickle cell anemia. This is Kamala Harris's policies. Threw her in jail while her daughter was truant for a legitimate medical reason. This is the problem. This is the problem with these over-ambitious prosecutors. It gets far worse, as we know. You know, if you're a presidential candidate that they don't like, they'll prosecute you in jurisdictions of their favor. I'm so happy to let you guys know who Cherry Peoples is. You would think, no, you wouldn't think. Why would the media do us any favors and actually dig into her? Is there anything they don't know about Donald Trump at this point? But we don't happen to know Cherry Peoples. Right. Like, that should be a very, you know, if this was Donald Trump, this would be everything they ever talk about nonstop. Yeah. And this was Kamala Harris. This is a record. Her fingerprints are all over this. No one's shocked here. Look it up yourself. All right. So before we go to the post show, for those that are not subscribers, Tushi is busy working. He is a political operative, works nonstop to protect your liberty. So we're actually just having him do the post shows on Thursday now to kind of help him out with his time. Like, otherwise, it's like loses an hour in commute. And he shocked us on Thursday after we had talked about Josh Heintzman, this crazy story. Do you know who that is?
I know Josh Heintzman.
Representative Josh Heintzman. Bizarre stories every week, it seems, with him. Now he's threatening a police chief in Pequot Lakes, or I shouldn't say threatening, but trying to, it seems to get this guy to change his position and support him. All the guy did is sign a petition to allow a third-party candidate on there, and he calls the Police Chiefs Association and the mayor. This guy's so goofy. He's been supporting all the rhinos, all the bad guys. Anyhow, Tushi put a little jingle together. This is called the Oompa Loompa Dance. Go ahead and play it, Dawson.
Oompa loompa doopity-doo. Isaac and Ron are lying to you. Oompa loompa doopity-dee. Voters got fooled by the HRCC. What do you get when you vote for a dwarf? incompetence and corruption for sure. What will I do if you don't vote for me? I will harass the chief of police. I'll go to the city administrator. I'll get the fucking MPP away involved. We broke our bank saving Creature's fat ass. Now we'll have 2 more years in the minority. If you want to find out firsthand what voter intimidation and voter harassment are about, don't vote for me.
No, that was short notice. So is he on? Do we have him on Zoom yet?
He has not shown up on Zoom, no.
Oh, Tushy, get on, buddy. I don't care if your new song, your new jingle is not done yet. I asked him to do one on Amy Klobuchar, and he wanted to know it too. And I'm like, I don't want to stop the artist. You know, he's actually a very musically talented guy, as you can tell. Very good singing voice. He used to play drums in a metal band, and actually plays guitar very well. He's very talented. So one of his new roles on the show is to come up with political jingles. If you want to see them first, become a subscriber. We're going to go to the post show. He's going to be joining us. Also, I think former Representative Eric Mortson's swinging by studio. I had a chat with him today, and he might show up while we're live. So that'll be fun. So you can stick around for a couple more minutes. So we'll have Royce White in the post show. I appreciate everyone who did the Rumble Rants today in the comments. Sorry we don't get to have your comment here. Get that man some wings. Well done. Yeah, no kidding, right? Wings from Janice Quinlan at Quinny's Pub and Grill in Matamidi.
You know, I got one more thing I could throw at people. Going on tomorrow, if people don't have anything going on, Lee Stinky Finky, who is the transgender state representative who led the effort to protect pedophiles in the Minnesota Human Rights Act and led the effort to mutilate children, is going to be participating in a debate tomorrow. It's going to be taking place 7 to 8:30 p.m. The address is 550 Vandalai Street, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55114, unit number 170. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm going to be there to heckle Finky and try to wake up some people. It should be interesting. So anybody interested in going and heckling Lee Stinky Finky with me, I'll see you tomorrow at 7.
Oh, you're unlike anyone else, Mega Jesse. Don't change.
Best use of your Friday night.
Thank you to our sponsors today, Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give my good friend Warren a call. If you're buying a home, give the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company a chance at financing that home. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com. And thank you to Alpine Country in St. Cloud, Minnesota. We are about to do the post show, so if you want to join us, if you're not a subscriber already, click on join on our Rumble page or go to truthhurtsnews.com. You can do this after the fact. You don't have to do this live. You can still go watch the end of the show. It takes you to our locals page. It's a new social media account. So even if you're watching this after the fact, most of our audience watches after the fact. We have a smaller live audience, although our live audience is great because you guys add to the show, and I love it. You guys are a great audience. So what I would like you to do is become a subscriber, help out our new media. So we are going to start the post show right now. For those who aren't a subscriber, we'll see you again on Tuesday. Take care.